We're going to review the setup of the clipper or tape cutting knife here on the Fischbein sewing head. To start with, we'll take a look at a knife that's set up correctly, and then we'll go through the adjustments on it. So when we look at the knife here with the air shut off, we can push the knife down. Now, first thing we'll look at here is the adjustment. We see that this tab here on the knife is engaged in the rear blade. This is so that this acts as a guide so that the blades don't collide with each other. So typically that tip will be in line with the back of the rear blade. So we're looking for that when we do the final setup. Also, we want a little bit of shear between the blades, and so what we're looking for there is the rear blade right here. I'll get a screwdriver to illustrate this. The rear blade right here actually will want to be adjusted slightly so that the bottom is slightly more to the left. And what that'll give a scissor action, a shear action when the moving blade moves down. So with the air off, we should be able to push that blade down. And then if we get what we like to do is we like to get a flashlight, and I don't know if we'll be able to see it here. Yes, you can see up at the top, up towards here. When we shine a flashlight behind, we should see a little bit of light, a little bit of a gap up towards the top of the blade, and no light, no gap at the bottom here. So that gives us that scissor action, that cutting action as the moving blade moves down. And now once you push this down, it usually locks into place. So what we have to do there is just momentarily apply some air pressure, and that will pop that blade back up into place. Okay, so what happens, this blade here is actually spring loaded left to right. So what happens with the shear action is as it travels down, this blade can move out slightly, and that gives us that shear action. These two screws here are used to clamp the arm onto the shaft. Up here, difficult to see with this guide in place. This screw up here, right here, there's a slight slot up there in the piece below that allows this lower blade to be moved, in an angle in and out slightly. Now over here we have the screws that are used to adjust the shaft. So this is just a locking nut here, and this center screw here, this set screw type thing, when we thread that clockwise, it pushes against this shaft and moves it out. And then when we move that set screw counterclockwise, it allows this shaft to go in under spring pressure. So to adjust the knife, let's say we have the clipper, the cutter arm off the machine. We'll just loosen that up. Okay. So now we can take that right off. Now the first thing we would normally do is we would loosen off that locking nut there, and we would thread. I'm going to have to put this down to use two hands here. Actually, we'll hold on to the nut. Okay, and then we'll actually thread this in. So we'll move this screw in all the way. Okay, it doesn't have to be tight, just snug. Okay, so what that is actually doing, if we look over here, is that is moving. When I thread that screw, you see that shaft moving in. Now I'm going clockwise, that shaft is moving out. Just quickly put a mark on that shaft, and then you'll be able to see that. So now if we watch that black mark there now, threading that set screw clockwise makes it go out, threading that counterclockwise pushes that shaft in. So what we do is when we're starting the installation, we thread this all the way in, okay, which pushes this shaft out. Now what we would do is, now we get our arm, place it here. Now what I would normally do at this point is just momentarily turn the air on, and what that does is that resets this shaft to the home position, to the out position. Okay, so now I've removed the air again now for safety. Now we'll get this arm and we'll slide it on until that tab is just about there, sitting parallel, sitting with the back of this blade here. Now we've already set, we'll assume at this point we've already set this rear blade so that it is out slightly, and we can take a look at that at this point fairly easily. We can put this blade all the way down, we can get our flashlight in behind, and again, I don't know if you can see it, but I can see here that there's no gap down here, and there is a slight gap at the top, so that's fine. Okay, so once again I'm going to put the air on momentarily because I may have moved that shaft. Okay, now, so assuming that this blade now is set correctly, we're going to again bring this into place. This is in this position. We'll now push the arm in so it's up against, pushed up against this blade, the stationary blade. We'll now lock up without spinning it. We'll lock this up. This doesn't have to be super tight, just snug. Tighten it up, but you don't have to super tighten it. Again, we'll make sure it hasn't shifted. That's great. Now this is the most important thing. Now what we do is we spin this screw one rotation counterclockwise. That now lets the shaft come back this way, and now it's under spring pressure so that this arm will have spring pressure up against the stationary blade. Now at this point I'm going to put the camera down, but I'm going to hold on to the screw and snug up the nut. So there we go. You can see that there's just a little bit of thread showing. So that's snugged up now, and then that's the completion of our assembly. Again, we can test it if we want. So if we have what we do sometimes is we grab a piece of paper and just slide that underneath there, and then just push the knife down, okay, and that should very easily cut that paper, okay. So we just bring that down, and again, once you get the arm down all the way, it tends to lock into place. So we just put the air on briefly. That pops the blade all the way back up, and then we see that yes, it has cut the paper, so that looks good. And again, one more confirmation that the tab here is down to the bottom of the blade. That's good, and the machine should now be ready to run.